Welcome, everybody. I'm Rina Nir. I'm the co-founder of Radby and the product manager for Snapshots, and also the person who answers very frequently to our support requests. So if you ever raise the support request, it's likely that you have already met with me virtually. Let's start this advanced training in Snapshots, especially for people who are using the Xray integration of Snapshot. What I plan to cover today in the next 45 minutes are these three topics. I'll start with a deeper dive into the main Snapshots macro and the integration points with Xray and how to configure the snapshots so that the layout of the report, the performance of the report is ideal for you. The second topic, since we have recently meaning our customers, not we, but to be honest, our customers are taking us to the territory of 50,000 and more items in a single snapshots. We have released a set of features that support specifically very large snapshots. I know that many of you might benefit from them, so I will show them. And the last one will be a deeper dive into the test report macro that allows you to actually generate a detailed test report right from snapshots. How this session will run, it's a live session. I'm really here now. Of course, not if you will watch the recording. And the forum is small enough for me to answer, or at least attempt to answer questions. There's a Q&A chat stream. After I cover each part, I will have a look at the Q&A and see if there are questions that I need to answer. I'll take them. Hope that time will allow to answer all the questions, but if not, then I will look at them later and respond to you via email or something like that. Let's see how it goes. And before I begin, thank you so much for being a Snapshot customer and also for joining us today. As I mentioned, our support desk exists. This is the contact for the support desk. If you have any follow-up on this training, any further questions or clarifications, or you want to have a one-on-one with me, just drop a line there. I also invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, and I'll be happy to have you in my network. And last thing, please consider leaving a review on the Atlassian Marketplace. Reviews on the Marketplace are really a very good way for us to know how our customers use snapshots, and also, to be honest, for other people to discover snapshots and generally to promote the app. So that would be awesome if you can consider that. Now, without further ado, I will jump right into our very first topic, and let's look deeper into snapshots with Xray. So this is the first example. You all should be seeing now a Confluence page with a snapshot that has Xray data. My assumption that many of you have already experienced and played a little bit with the integration with Xray. Here on the left side, we have tests. So this is a test level. And then there is a second level on this particular example, which is the test runs. So the first thing that I want to highlight, test runs are always the last level. We do not have in Snapshot a way to trace further down because test runs are data that is not Jira data. It's pure 100% Xray data. Jira does not know that. And in our normal way of connecting layers. We don't know how to go down from test runs further. But you can go before that as deep as you want. So if I look at this example, here, the test and the test run levels are the third level and the fourth level. And before that, there are user requirements that then link into functional specification into tests. So there are here 3 Jira layers: user requirements, functional specification, tests, and then we linked the test runs. Test runs are always linked into tests. That's the way that they exist. And after test runs, you will not be able to add another layer. I'm highlighting it because some people thought that it's the number that limits. There is no limit in the number of levels that you can have in snapshots. The limit is that test runs themselves are the last ones. Okay. Another few things that I want to show here is that we are using the show JQL setting. So the reason that you see here the JQL is because there is a setting in the snapshot macro that shows it. It's not the default setting. You need to set it. And I will show you in a second when I show you how to configure the layout, how to do that. Now, very often test runs, snapshots tend to be on the bigger side. So it's very useful to know that you have filtering option on view. So for example, if I wanted to see here only the ones that have preconditions, I have here the field Xray preconditions, and most of the time it's empty for me in my setup. But I want to see the ones that are not empty. So I can hover over this column, show, use the option is not empty, filter, and boom, I see only the 2 tests that actually have preconditions in my universe. So that's an option that helps when you view such a large snapshots. I can clear it then. It will go back to normal. And I can also use it in this particular case to filter for a specific string. I want to find only the ones that the tests that are cucumber. I will filter for that. And I see that in all my collection, I only have a single one that is from cucumber, and I can examine it because maybe from some aspect I'm interested specifically in this type. And of course, you can filter on any of the columns. So that is something that is available to you. Then another point that I want to make here, we have here 3 fields: the Xray test definition, the Xray test gherkin, and the Xray steps. Sorry, the steps. These are Xray fields, and they will be with values only for the appropriate type. So only cucumber types have gherkin. So you will not, this will be empty for any situation where it's, let me clear it, where it's the type of the filter is manual. So manual steps will only have steps. Generic steps will have definition, and cucumber steps will have gherkin. Okay, so one more thing before I move into the configuration area is that we configured here defects to show in a specific way. So defects show with a link to Jira, with a summary, and also with their status. You can remove the status. And I will show you where to control that. By default, the status is shown on a relatively recent snapshot. So maybe if you had a snapshot that is very, very old, you will not see the defect, and then you need to turn on the configuration. But generally speaking, the way that the macro behaves today is that the status of defects is on by default. Okay, let us look actually into the back office. I'm now moving to editing the page, and I will open the macro configuration. So in the first level, we have tests. The configuration here is relatively straightforward. I might show you one or two interesting things about it in a bit, but I want to focus on the second level where things get more juicy, if I may say it like that. So in the test run level, we have quite a lot of filtering options because we don't have JQL. Something that is pretty important to understand to everybody who works with Snapshot and also with Xray is that test runs in Xray are really not a JIRA item. So I will quickly go into a test run. I will open a link here. If we go into JIRA, open a test run, when JIRA will open it. So everything that you see here is not JIRA data. It is pure 100% Xray data, which we get in Snapshot through the specific API channel that we open with Xray. And we cannot apply JQL into that because JIRA query language, all the filtering methodology in JIRA is blind to this data. So we developed here a set of options to allow you to control what test runs are actually shown. And over time, this has become a little bit more and more complex as a result of basically requests from users like yourselves. And I will try to cover a lot of the main options here. We will use this one. So the option to actually filter test runs based on their status, because I'm not interested really to see failed test. So let me just quickly go back to this page. I'm opening this page now in view mode, so you will see what I'm talking about. This is the status, and I do not want to see here in my report anything that is failed. So I'm including the other statuses that I want to allow. I want to allow past, to do, executing. And of course, it will be your option what you include. I just decided for the demo that I'm going to stay with these three options. Another thing that I want to do here, I will add the test execution key and the test status in order to demonstrate another point. And for us to not have a snapshot that is too wide, I will remove some fields here, just so we will have a little bit more space here. And so to summarize what I did here, I removed some fields from the first level. And in the second level, I filtered based on test runs, and I added the test execution key and test status, but I will move them back to the beginning so we see them a little bit more clearly. And I'm not interested in the finish on, so I'm going to remove this field. So I changed my setup. I'm going to update now the page. So I'm inserting Snapshot, and I'm updating the page. And I will trigger a snapshot so that we will have all the data that we needed. We needed the test execution keys and test execution status. It will take it 1 or 2 minutes and it will get it. In the meanwhile, oh, it is pretty quick, so that's cool. Very often when I stream, everything goes much, much slower, but this was a friendly. I am in luck here. So we have less fields on the left because we removed some fields. And now we have the test execution key and the test execution status. And I see that for many rows, we actually don't have any test execution first. So that bothers me a little bit that I have those empty cells. I also have many empty cells in defects. So we will look in a second how to eliminate it. And the second thing I notice is that the status of all my test executions is literally open. Let me just, okay, never mind. I'll not change the data now. I will work with this, with these values that I have. Let me just refresh this page so we have it in its new form, and I will go back and edit and show you some more things that we can do now. So back to the test run level. The test run level has this search JQL that is searching on the test executions which belong or which contain those test runs. And this is a nuance I wanted to stress here because we cannot apply, as I mentioned, we cannot apply JQL directly on the test execution, on the test run, but we can apply on the test execution. So this JQL applies on the test execution, and very often people want to apply it based on the status of the test execution. So in my case, just to have some data there, I will say status. I will remain with the option that we have here, that is status is not canceled. And just to avoid that canceled, Xray, that test runs that belong to canceled executions will be included. That is basically the use case. People asked to be able to remove test runs that belong to statuses that are canceled or in any other state that for you means that they do not need to be included. So that will impact the test runs. Then in order to fix the empty cells that I have, and I know that a lot of people in regulated environments don't like those empty cells, we have a relatively new feature that allows you to go into a field and design a placeholder. So in defects, I want to say that when it's empty, it's not that we did not get the data, but there are no defects. So I will fill in a text like that, no defects. This will immediately have set values in those empty cells and submit. By default, if I want just to have the default placeholder, it's empty, just this string, but you can change it to another string. This will already solve my empty defects and if I have empty versions, but it will not solve the case where we have basically no test runs. So this whole level of test runs is not existing because there's no test run for this test. And I want not to have just empty cells. I want to have a textual value to express that. To do that, I need to navigate to layout. So that is something that we call empty level placeholder. This will appear everywhere in your report when you don't have data for this specific level because it's not covered. While I'm here in the layout area, this is also where I tick the box, show JQL query. This is the tick that forces this row to appear in the header. So you see that it is ticked. Generally speaking, the layout is kind of a trove of options, and you are invited to check it out when you have a moment. Okay, I will insert snapshot. Basically what I did, I filter now the Xray, the test run based on the test execution. I will not retake data because I know that the data is, meaning it's not interesting for now to retake the data for that. And then I added the placeholders, and they will just show up. There is no need to take another snapshot in order for that to show up. So I skipped, and I need to refresh? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do need to take, yes, I need to take new data. Sorry, my bad. In order for the placeholder to appear, you do need to refresh the snapshot, and then the placeholder will appear. Hopefully it will go as quickly as before. In the meantime, I'll just check if there are questions. So, okay, no, there are no questions at the moment. Okay, so let me just refresh. Yes, so we have basically now the placeholder that appears with no defects. And when the test runs do not exist, there is actually no data for this level. We see this placeholder. Okay, so that's basically everything that I wanted to cover on the main snapshot. We will now move to several features that we highlight because they specifically are designed for very large snapshots. And what is a very large snapshot really depends on your definition. For some people, it's 500 issues. For other people, it's 50,000 issues. So I will, one second, open the page I prepared for that. Okay, so in this page, there is, it's not huge, but there is still a lot of scrolling that goes on. And some people have very often many snapshots on the same page, resulting in very large pages with a lot of scrolling. If we wanted to remove the need to scroll over 500 rows or whatever number of rows feels to you too much scrolling, the way that to solve it now is to basically move and use snapshot scrolling. And I will just quickly show you how to set it up. In the layout, the very top option is called snapshot scrolling. When you use it, the display of the page is impacted. If you see, now the page is much shorter. You can see it from the scroll of the Confluence page. And the snapshot is displayed in a window that is scrollable by itself. Okay, so if you have very large snapshots and you feel that so much scrolling on the page is just awful and heavy, you are invited to use it. There is a way on the configuration from the admin area to set this as the default viewing for all snapshots on your site. So if most of the snapshots on your site or a lot of them feel heavy in terms of scrolling, ask your administrator to set this up as a default value so that all your snapshots by default are showing up like that. And of course, then on the same place, you can change it on a specific case if you want the scrolling not to be this type of internal scrolling, you can tick it off. By the way, this also helps with loading of the page. So the loading of the page is this: when you refresh the page, when you go to the page and you just present it. If you have a very, very large snapshot, or you have several rather large snapshots on the page, you may find that pages load slowly. And using this scrolling will speed up the load of the pages and can help. So it will make your pages more friendly. So I encourage you to use it. Another thing that I want to show, because because some customers went into very large snapshots territories, they found that exporting to scroll is either producing huge PDFs, and in some extreme situations, the PDF broke. So PDF have their limitations. And it happened with certain snapshots, if the snapshots pages turn out to be too big, you will not be able to use the scroll to export them. And in order to solve that, what we did is this an enhancement, or this option. You go to export options and you export this snapshot as an embedded attachment. What this does, it creates an Excel or an HTML file from the snapshot and it embeds these snapshots in the export. I will show you in a second how that will look like. So when you tick this box and update, now if I export this page with a Scroll PDF exporter, this only works when you export with Scroll PDF exporter. It does not work if you use the default exporter in Atlassian, just because Atlassian do not support embedding Excels in their PDFs. So it just the PDF support of a native Confluence is a bit more limited. So this is the PDF that was created. I will open it one second in PDF viewer, and it's pretty important to open it in PDF viewer. Browser view of PDF also will not show you. So this is the PDF that we just exported, and instead of seeing the snapshot as an inline table inside the PDF, you see it as a link, and this link is basically a file that exists inside the PDF. So if you double click on it, it asks you if you want to open the file. If you say okay, it will open the Excel. It's basically, the PDF is acting like an envelope that holds inside it an Excel or an HTML. It depends what format you chose. Okay, so these are the two new features that we introduced recently to support large snapshots. And I hope that you will use them and find them beneficial. I want to add a small mention of something that is always correct, meaning it's not news, but might be news for some of you. With one second, I want to open this one. Very often when people do traceability reports with Snapshot, it turns out that the snapshot table become very wide. And then you will run into problems if you just export it with a native export to PDF from Confluence, because it's hard for the native exporter to handle correctly very wide tables. You will see that the tables are basically truncated. And virtually all the project customers I work with eventually go and use the Scroll PDF exporter, because you want to have more control and more flexibility and more power in your exports, because you do those submissions either for FDA or technical files or what have you. So in export, beyond the fact that it handles more correctly the width of the table, you have more control about how the table is exported. In this particular example, the page, first of all, before we go into the traceability, we use this macro from scroll to move from portrait aspect to landscape aspect. And then there is this macro scroll table layout that really allows you to fine-tune how much somehow it does not open now. Why it does not open? I don't know. 1 second. So the scroll table layout is again a macro that is provided by Scroll and allows you, for example, here I really describe very precisely how I want to spread my columns, just because I want to have very specific control. It may look like a lot of work, but you do it only once and then you just reuse the same structure in all your pages. So it's worth doing. And generally speaking, it's worth using Scroll PDF. It's not a product of Radby. I don't get any kickbacks from Scroll, but I just love this product. So yes, this basically closes the second topic that I wanted to cover of features to handle more correctly large and more easily large tables. Last topic is to go into the detailed test report. So let me open this page. I will close the other pages. And I know that maybe some of you are in sites that do not yet use the detailed test report. So I'm showing quickly this, basically, this everything that you see below take test snapshot is a snapshot, but it's another macro. It's called Snapshots test report. You find it in when you create a page and you want to add macros. If you will look for snapshots, this is the main macro and this is the snapshots test report. If you will trigger this one, you will end up creating a page that looks like this page. This page, so this macro allows you to go much, much deeper into the actual granular data of the test itself and the test run. So here in this particular case, we have several runs that do not have few tests that do not have test runs. But for example, GAL 42 is a manual test. it failed, and we have here even the steps information. So for each step, we have the full data that came from the run itself, including screenshots and the status of each particular step. And there is even a section at the very, very bottom of evidence. So we know that a lot of you need those evidences as part of the detailed test report. And sometimes when they are buried in the test runs, they are too small to appreciate. So there is a separate section where each evidence has the whole width of the page and can be shown. So first, this is an overview of the detailed test report. You can use it for two different use cases. One is to show just the plan. So if you need to approve the plan and then later on have a report with the plan, you first need to have a page that just shows the tests without any executions. And you will see here that what we have here is information about the tests without information about the execution. And it is, in this particular case, based on test plan. Let us have a quick view on how we configure this. Sorry, before I will show you how to configure this, I will just say that the second use case is when you actually include the test runs. So here is exactly the same scope, exactly the same report, but it attempts to show the latest test run for each test based on certain criteria. And we can have a quick look and see how you can define which test run will actually be selected here. So when there is a test run, like in some cases here, or maybe not, just because I defined the criteria too strictly and we don't have a lot of data, but it will attempt. This one has a test run, and this is basically the test run info. So it's a generic test. It was executed as part of this test execution. It passed. These are the dates. These are the test environment. So we have a lot of data coming from the test run and the actual definition that was used during the test run. Okay, let us have a quick look on how to configure this macro. You will see, if you haven't yet experienced this macro, you will see that the UX is much nicer than the one of Snapshot, just because we developed it more recently, and the Snapshot macro UX is a bit older, and we will refresh it soon, so it will be as nice as this and even nicer, we hope. But I will quickly show you options that you have here. First, to select the actual tests. It's a detailed test report, so it's driven by, first of all, the tests, and then you have some filtering on the test runs that are actually included. So the tests themselves can be selected, for example, by test plan. So this is an Xray test plan. If you have a test plan and you want to create a detailed test report based on the test plan, you select the project that you want the test plan to be picked from, and you find the test plan that is the one you want to include. And then only tests from this test plan will be included. If I do a preview, I'll see that I have a set of 8 test issues in this plan. I have still the option to select tests based on a full-blown JQL, and you would know what this is. And Jira Issues Basic is a search criteria that allows more flexibility than the plan, but is easier than a JQL. So you can select the project, the versions, and the components, and maybe filter based on certain issues. So you have these 3 options available to you how to select the tests. then when you want to select which test runs will be included, if you turn off this option, you will not get test runs. So that is the use case. If you wanted to have a test report that is only the test plan without results. If you wanted to do that, you would turn off this. And then you can filter for test runs that are only applicable in whatever versions are interesting for you, or based on a test environment. Yes, and I think that if I unselect that, I will get much more runs in this. So let me do that so that the next time that I run it, I will get more test runs. Okay. And then the second thing that I can control, I can really go for each of the sections. And I want to actually show you this one so that we will look together what a section is. Let me find one that has the run. Yes. Yeah. So these are the details of the test case. Then there are the details of the test run. Then there are the details of the steps. And then we have the separate section, which is only the evidence. And for each one of those, I can decide if I want to include it in my detailed test report or not. So if I turn it off, it will simply not be shown. I can change the columns. So if there are columns, and very often people, for example, do not use preconditions. So preconditions exist here, but I don't want to show it in the report. You can untick it. Okay. You cannot add fields. So by default, when you just create the detailed test report, all fields will appear, but you can remove some of them and add them back if you wanted. The linked issue has a specific filter. And the reason for that is this. If you go, sorry, here, in this particular case, by default, we show all the links of the tests. But from auditing perspective, I really, for example, don't want to show the blocks, because the block link has nothing to do with traceability, has nothing to do with defects. So I just don't want to show it. If this is what I want, I can filter down and show only certain link types, or based on a lot of other criteria in regards to the work item. For example, I don't want to show any links to stories. I just want to show links to bugs or to epics. For example, you can really fine tune it here. In the test run info, it tends to be very, very large by default. And if you don't use some of the fields, I encourage you to just remove them here. And again, you can do that for one test report, decide exactly the layout that is desired for you and put it in the template and use it over and over again. You don't need to invent the wheel each time. Yes, and the layout here, again, you can include the defect status, which is the default value. And if you wanted not to include the defect status because it disturbs your standards, you will just untick it. Okay. Yes, and after you have done all these changes, you will just update the report, update the page, and you can generate a new report based on the new criteria. And the layout will be, the layout and the scope and the filtering will all be reflected in the data and what you see. So I think I'm done here in terms of what I wanted to show you today. I will see. I see that there are questions. Okay. Someone mentioned here that he tested the placeholder and there's no need to retake the snapshot. Okay, so it could be something with a presentation and a refresh, etc. Great. Thank you so much for sharing this tip with us. And then there is something about the test run. It says export to Excel of this snapshot with test runs is not in proper format if we have multiple test runs for a test. I'm not 100% sure I understand. Can the person, Sunil, can you elaborate a little bit? Give a little bit more information about what is the question? While you are adding this information, if you are still around, I will just mention that. So I want to show. Second. I want to, 1 second, get out of the presentation mode. If we go, if you haven't tried it yet, each snapshot has an option to export to Excel. And if you use it, then you have an Excel file. Generally speaking, in regards to, so how can we find the recording of this session, please? Okay, the recording of this session will be available within 1 or 2 days. I just need to download it and upload it in a way that is easily shareable. So, and we will send a follow-up email with the place of the where it will be. It will actually be in YouTube eventually. So, to recap, you will probably get from Zoho, which is the platform we are using today, you will probably get a follow-up email, and it will have maybe a link. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, I'm still learning the platform. But whatever you will get from Zoho, you will get a separate email from us within 1 or 2 days with a link to a YouTube version of this file, and this will be available to you as well as to anybody else. So if you wanted to share this among your colleagues, you could. You are very welcome to do so once I send you the link. Just give us 1 or 2 days to get organized with that. And lastly, I just go back quickly to the Excel. This feature will be improved in the near future. We have released it several months ago, and then we are seeing a lot of good traction with it, but also some requests coming in terms of the format. And I think this was also the concern from Sunil. So we are working on an improvement to that particular feature. And if you have any request or needs specific around that, you are again very welcome to open a support call and let us know. So those information that you send us about needs, requests, and wishes is very important in terms of guiding us on how we develop our next features. And then I see there is another question from Muhammad concerning Xray. Is there a plan to integrate Xray's data to Jira or Jira's Rovo? Or is there a search engine to check Xray's data? Okay, first of all, I'm not the vendor of Xray. I have no authority to speak on their behalf. So what I'm sharing here is just what I know. I think there is a plan to make Xray data available to Rovo. I don't know the timeline of it, and I'm not sure exactly what will be the scope. In terms of the search, there is I know that the search currently for Xray information is quite limited. We are doing all our searches through the API, and that is, of course, not very reasonable for users to do from the UX. You cannot access the API. And I know that Xray are working hard, and they have released recently an iteration over their extended search. So I encourage to watch out for that and subscribe to the Xray newsletter. I'm sure there is a way to do that and get up to date with this information. That's the best I can say. Okay, any other question before I close the call? And again, I thank you again for being here today, for being a customer, and I would really appreciate if you feel that you like Snapshot, please go on the marketplace and leave a review. This will be not only appreciated, but help us keep the lights on and keep going strong. We are constantly having a development team work on this app, and it's pretty important for us that more people will discover it. Okay. Thank you, guys, and thanks, Karin. I hope it was useful to you. And as said, you will get email with a link to the public recording of this. Thank you.